Approval of the agenda has been done and approved. Item number 3, site visit, we did that. 4, travel, or the cargo building.
Here we are.
Number 5, number 5, whatever. Approval of the July 26, 2022 minutes, is that correct, or should it be August?
July?
Should be August, sorry,
And I don't know.
Well, then
I
why
got
did-
corrected,
Who approved this agenda then?
that's a good point. Yeah, the August ones, let me just double check, the August ones are the ones that should be in here though. Yes, yep, the correct minutes were in here, just listed incorrectly on
So it's August
August
22nd.
22nd, yes.
Okay. So I move that we fix this agenda to show August 22nd.
Okay.
Everybody's in favor of that? Yeah. Okay, now,
No, first you gotta move it, Karen. and
I
then
did, I
gotta-
just said, I
and
would
then-
move we
And
fix
then I got
this
a
agenda.
second for that,
Second it.
Second.
seconded by Jim Posner. All in favor of the action, we're saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. So the agenda has been amended or
Amended.
changed. Next,
I'll move that we accept the
Second.
minutes
of
for the August 22nd meeting.
2022, made by Karen Power, seconded by Jim Posner. Any discussion on those? All in favor, say by saying aye. Okay, now, number 6, public comment. Any public comment?
Nobody is on Zoom.
No, we are Jim. Item 8. Discussion. Decision 2022-2027 BMX contract. Hand it over to Adam, tell us the highlights.
I'll actually turn it over to Rick. Rick's been the one working with events over there.
I'll share the copy on it. It's, we didn't change anything. Besides maybe some formatting and stuff from the previous 5-year contract. The only thing that's really updated was the dates. It's important to do a 5-year contract for this because to secure any of the state level races or the regional races are bigger. They have to guarantee that they can be in that slot 3 years out. You know, when they start the planning for their bigger events. So when we used to do 1-year and 2-year contracts, they weren't able to even apply for some of the bigger races because there was no guarantee the facility would be theirs when it came time to that. So that's the reason it went to a 5-year on the last one and why we need to stay with a 5-year now. So I know there were a lot of questions when we were on the site visit. If there's anything remaining.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for the BMX for the 5 years.
Motion to approve the contract of BMX for 5 years made by Steve Bender, seconded by
Powers.
Karen Powers. Here's my question, Adam, someone, is this considered approving the contract, the resolution?
The resolution is to approve the 5-year contract. Yes,
So-
and I handed out it was just some minor updates in language and like the vote required for passage. Corp council did review that.
So this is what we're doing, this is.
That'll go to personnel and finance. correct?
Okay, let me just ask one very quick question.
Well, it's open for discussion. You can ask the one question. Right?
What was that?
You don't need to ask a quick question. We're in discussion.
Well, my question will be quick
Okay.
and not, I'm all fine with it, but where it says in line 28 or 27, 28, if we don't charge other youth program, we won't charge them. I'm totally for that. I just want to make sure that if we do charge soccer people over here, that we'd also have to think about charging BMX people and or the kids card people. I'm just
Yeah.
make sure that we're all clear on
So
that.
this is consistent with, just kind of give a real quick summary and as many as I can think of, soccer, rugby, kids cart. Yeah, I mean, those are the major other clubs. We do not charge them.
Okay.
Other than for if there's like a special event that required additional assistance that we approved last year.
Karen?
Since there are so many youth involved in this, and basically it's a youth program, do the adults who work with the kids have to pass or go through a sexual abuse misconduct training, anti-sexual abuse misconduct training, something?
That honestly would be a good question. It's nowhere in our contract that we require them to do that. Now, I don't know if in your discussions with BMX. That would have been a good question for Rick, yeah.
So I don't know.
I can get you the answer on
I'm
that.
teaching 80 and 90-year-olds at the Y, and I gotta take a youth
Mhm.
misconduct, sexual misconduct thing at the YMCA. I would think this is something we ought to be doing.
Yeah, typically like when we would run youth events through, we don't do as many obviously with the county, but when I worked with like city or village type municipalities, we do like a background check and some of those types
We
of
do
things.
those.
But because this isn't our program, yes, they are on our site. We don't, at least at this point, the county does not do anything for background checks of their volunteers. Now, whether or not you want to require BMX to do background checks of their volunteers. I mean, that's something in theory we could add to the contract.
I don't know if this is an Adam question or a Rick question, but I would assume that the USA Motocross BMX group that they're a part of requires some sort of a,
Typically, those bigger organizations
Standard?
do. Yeah, like I know when my wife did USA hockey, just youth hockey, actually, yeah, they were required to. So we can get that, I can get that question answered too.
Okay.
So that way, between this will go to personnel
I
and
would not
finance.
hold up I would not
Yeah.
be voting on this for that, but I would like to strongly encourage, if it's not being done,
Mhm.
that they are doing background checks on all adults dealing with kids and whatever, the kind of workshops and that organizations do to make sure that adult participants, adult volunteers, adult workers are fully trained in anti-sexual abuse misconduct kind of.
I'm not against what she's proposing, but if we're gonna make BMX do it, then Adam, I think we should
I think they should
see
have
if
it
the
all.
other youth oriented groups, kids car club, or especially soccer. I mean, I don't know if soccer does or not. I mean, I just know when I worked for the rec department, when we had a high school basketball league, if you wanted to coach the high school league, the high school, you had to have adults who had to have similar background. So I'm just saying, to be consistent, either we do it all, or maybe not requiring, but like I say, if the BMX group does it like Rachel says, then that's fine with me.
We can check, Rick and I can reach out to Rick with BMX and see what they currently do and report back to the committee. I can give an email update to the committee on that. And then if anything, so the current 5-year contract ends in November. So that's why we wanted to get this approved by October, so November. Worst case scenario, if this got taken into November's county board meeting, it wouldn't be much of a difference because that's during their.
But you'll have all that you'll have almost answered by then.
Correct, yes.
I'm good with that, and Supervisor Ponzert said, well, these are two different issues, the background check and the sexual misconduct workshop. But I'm thinking, those are all going together, those things that you need to do
Usually it's a
to protect,
program,
to protect the children.
Like I told Karen that, just for me to cut grass for the schools, I had to go through, what did I just?
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security, because I could be from out of state. There's no way of tracking me.
I worry about you too.
Hey, okay, there shouldn't be that you worried about. So
Homeland Security.
Any more questions, Jim?
I would think that BMX people would have had that. In with the local, I mean, the national chapter. But if they do, well, then it's all.
Yeah. Yep, we'll check with them and see what they currently do.
Steve, any questions, concerns?
I'm fine with it.
Rachel? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
And that'll be on October's county board meeting, right?
Correct. It would be personnel and finance too, because it does deal with a 5-year contract and we're waiting, or we're not waiting, but we're not charging a fee.
Okay. Item number 8, update Centerview Exposition Center for East Campus improvements.
Yeah, I just wanted to show this. I asked Mike if we could have this on the agenda. I just have a quick 2-3 minute video just to kind of run through. I just want to show you. So for those of you that maybe weren't aware of this project, the East Campus improvements just finished this year. What that was adding 2 storm ponds where there were some of you might not have ever seen the expo before, this, so there were no storm ponds here. There was 2 lots. We made one larger or doubled the size of it, lot 4, and then lot 3 was not even in existence. I wanted to show this because we had a heavy rain, 2.5 inches, was it, Tom, last week?
The whole day, but an inch and a half inside of an hour.
Inch and a half inside an hour last week, Tuesday, when it rained really hard. And I went out there, took some videos of it, to show our engineer and really for our own documentation, but then I thought it would be really good to show the committee, because then I also took, came back 2 hours later, to show you the difference, because why this is important too, is we're also gonna eventually be looking at West Campus improvements, which is the main parking lot, and adding storm pond and basically helping with water issues, so that way our events don't get rained out. So that way we're able to continue to do a lot of our events. So I'm just gonna run through this. The videos are gonna switch, but this is the main pond that we constructed. I'll pause it occasionally here. I'm gonna let the wiper go. Shoot, I tried pausing earlier. So that was the main pond, and we'll show that picture again, or that video again. Actually, I'll just back it up just a little bit. So this is the main pond. You can see it's up to the, can you see? Oh, good, you can see my mouse up there. It's up to the rock level here. Normally there's a couple feet of rock showing, so it definitely is getting up to the top, but there's still quite about a 6 inches to a foot more that it could have gone. This is the main pond that we added to take on most of the water. We actually added in the second pond later on in the design. Then there's this swale that we're going to follow here that goes between lot 2 and 3. So that's lot 3 over here, the big new lot next to the berm. I'll try to describe things as much as possible as we go. And you can see how much water's in there, but this is a good thing. This is where we want the water to be, because this is unusable space, and that was the whole point. The expo is very flat. And so we needed to try to create elevation. So a lot of these parking lots have a very large crown on them where it was flat before. You can actually see even here, even though I'm going to keep panning, it's actually pretty dry, pretty usable here. There's some water obviously running off, but that's running off into the ditch.
Is that tree, Adam, in the soil? Back up a little bit. Looks like-
Yep. It's close, but you'll see even in the 2 hours, it already recedes. So these trees,
When it gets bigger, that's gonna basically block that soil.
it's not,
It's technically on the outside, there's a dry rock bed that is between the tree lines.
Okay.
That meanders back and forth. That tree is outside of that. But in an extreme flood situation like this, then yeah, it did end up underwater, but it does not typically.
and this was definitely extreme, and the rock bed is about a foot and a half deep. I mean, it's deep, so it can take water. It's meant to, basically it was a spot kind of almost like a pond until you get to the pond to make sure there's much of the water, but this is obviously an extreme case where, I mean, I don't know if you remember last Tuesday, it was coming down hard. So we got a lot of rain quickly. So we pan here. You can see, I was taking this from our engineer, and then I thought it'd be good for us, but you can see the whole,
I have a question.
yep.
And this predates you, I think, Adam, but I remember several years ago being shown pictures of flooding around, I don't know if they were paddocks, horse paddocks or something, and it was deep water standing around.
Yep.
Does that solve that problem?
So it
Or do we
doesn't
still
solve
have
that problem on the pond, but like, for instance, this lot here, I was here last summer and we had a lot of rain during Life Fest. This lot that was all grass was pretty much unusable. And that was after a normal rain. I mean, it was a good amount of rain, but it was normal rain and they couldn't use any of it. A tent or two, but now this year, if this event happened, we could pretty much use it right away that same day.
Are these ponds? Are they just to take the runoff from parking lots, or is there drainage tile?
So it takes the, some drain tile goes into it, from the barns, but. Yeah, that swale does go, it doesn't go into the pond, that actually goes all the way to the park. Now I'm thinking about that particular, or from the barns to, it goes right to the. And I think I have a pic, I might not have a picture of it. There's a culvert that goes under county, so all of this water, it goes to the pond, then eventually drains into the, there's 3 culverts across County Highway Y into the park, and I do have a picture of where it goes to in the park, and you'll see where that goes to. So what we're also doing here, and the reason I took a picture of the park, is you'll see that the swale in the park is great. Whereas a lot of this water in the past would go to the park. I mean, it would either flood out areas or go right to the park and not slow down by the ponds. The ponds help regulate it and slow it down a little bit, so it's not going there so quickly and flooding out the park too.
I was still not sure, does that solve the problem I asked about, where there's standing water like above your boots by those barns? Does this retention pond or whatever you call it?
Now, I know,
It
you know,
does address something. Because some of that, the ditches around some of these areas were re-dredged with part of this project.
Mhm.
So some of the culverts were replaced. Where you see 3 culverts in the center of that swale. It used to be 1 10-inch culvert, now it's 3 massive concrete culverts. So it does help pull the water from the north down faster, so that those upper areas are able to dry.
Okay,
So it did address some of them, but not all of them.
it's a good start.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
the West Campus improvements that will address some more of those issues.
Yeah.
And then eventually,
And I do have pictures of West Campus, to your point about, are you standing in water? I have pictures of the West Campus and
Okay.
what West Campus looks like compared to East Campus after this event. So this is just, I apologize, that panned really quickly because it was just 2 videos smashed together. Now I'm in lot 3, looking north. So all the water is going right to left across your screen. That's just an old culvert that the highway replaced right before this. This is the other smaller pond that we weren't gonna add.
That you
But
are not going to.
but Rick and I, through the process, asked Rutler to look at adding this for future use, and you can already see it's getting current use.
Yeah.
So, it's a good thing that we did add this within the project. You can see how full those swales are. And you can see that it is up to the pipe already.
Mhm.
This is the one that, now, I'm just gonna pause so I can reset. So this is now lot 4. The covered arena is over here, large covered arena. This is lot 4 that we doubled in size. So this was here before, but we doubled in size. We gave it electrical. This was the add-on request that I had last year because of the COVID and all prices going up from when we originally priced all this out. So this is what was added on, which is very good that we also added this on because you'll see a drainage swale that is very helpful. But you can see actually even here, you can see that there's barely any standing water from here. You can see it's all in the ditches and that's where we want it. Because that's all space we're not using anyway.
Are there any downsides to having these ditches? And how do they differ from a retention pond?
So-
Like having these ditches filling up with water, are we growing algae and?
No, because they're ditches, but they're sloped to go to the pond. Now, in a typical in some places you don't have as many swales or ditches, you actually have underground storm pipes. Problem is we don't have enough depth to put in a storm pipe underground and make it to a pond all the way on the other side of the expo grounds.
Yeah.
The expo grounds, I mean, it's a great facility. The problem is when they built it many years ago in 1988, they built the expo building at the elevation of probably whatever the farm was at. They didn't build it up.
Mhm.
And so everything was left at the elevation of the farm. Well, where's the water gonna go? So they should have built some things up and, cost some, which would have cost more money. And I'm sure that was what it came down to at the time.
Look at that water running, that's. fast.
Yeah, you can see how much water it is getting. I was just zooming in a little bit more there because I think we might need to eventually switch that out for a slightly larger culvert. But you can see there's still more capacity that this culvert could take. So
Sure.
even on a busy or a big rain event like this, it's
You
definitely
haven't
working.
You haven't covered the.
And this is, you can see, obviously, this is that swale that we added. That's all rock in there, about a 1.5 2 feet deep. All right, so then this is, and it's right underneath there. Of course, it's not gonna show you, but this is the West Campus. So this was at the same time, and you can see this is some area on the west side. The barns are all over here. You can see all the water, the standing water. It has nowhere to go, really. Obviously, I'm in the main parking lot here.
And that's about 18 inches deep and it's deep.
Oh, yeah.
How much
It's
is-
deep.
It's a lot of water.
Yeah.
You could add some fish there and have some fishing tournaments going on.
You can see how the water just sits there. And then this is, so I was showing you on one side of me, this is on the other side of me. So this is during the rain once again though, but you can see it has nowhere to go. I mean, it eventually does go to the culvert across Y and some of it seeps into the ground. But not nearly, we're not directing it. You can see it actually has that one little cross point here.
And all this you're showing, this is from an inch and a half of rain on.
In an hour.
And
So there's a lot of rain in an hour. So
An
this
hour,
is just a good
oh, yeah.
example of the system working.
Okay,
This is the county park. You can see sometimes, during rain events, it would be up past,
mhm,
way past here. I didn't get enough pictures of the county park, but I just wanted to show this is the county Y is over here. So this is where it comes into and it crosses through the park. It goes all the way through the park at the end of the day into our other ponds. So now this is gonna be 2 hours after the rain, these next ones. So this is 2 hours after the rain. This is lot 2. Plenty usable. I mean, little water here and there, but pretty much dry. For all intents and purposes, this is lot 3. Lot 4. And you can see, this is that swale that went down the center, so that what you were talking about, Supervisor Bender, you can see those trees are already out of, and then that's that tree I think we were looking at. They're already out of the water, so that would, they were only in the water for an hour or two, while there was just quite a bit of, I mean, obviously we had a lot of rain. Then I turn around to the north and you can see even those are already pretty much dry. And then we'll go back to west side, and that's what that looks like 2 hours after. So we wouldn't be able to use any of those spots afterwards. So I just wanted to show our committee, obviously what that money did, that $1.7 million project, what that did for the benefit of the expo on the other side. What, obviously there's pavement issues that you guys saw on the county tour and expo and some other things. But at least from a water standpoint, you can kind of see why we need a pond on the west side and why we need to work on drainage on the west side of the campus. You guys have anything to add?
The only other observation is on the south end of the park where a main pond is around soccer areas. That takes the brunt of all the water in the park, and then it's throttled through a series of pipes before it. A rain like this, it would have been on the road. So that
a rain like this, how long did you shut down your soccer field before it's usable again?
Well, most of the fields that are sloped, no problem. They 2 days.
Oh, okay, 2 days.
In the past, we would have flooded out, and that would have caused problems.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
so what it did is it slowed it down, so the raise of that pond wasn't as fast. And the amount of volume exiting that pond was closer to what's coming in that pond. Only raises about 4 feet instead of 6 feet.
Since you mentioned Parkview, do we ever have rain so bad that we can't get emergency vehicles down to Parkview and people are essentially trapped there?
No.
Does that happen?
Where from a park side standpoint, no.
We had that 6-inch rain in the road that was a problem.
Okay,
These fields here, that's gonna take probably a week to week and a half before those will be usable again. There's a water will just sit there.
So, obviously the goal was to fix some of the issues at Sunnyview, but it obviously also fixed things over at County Park too, because we have a lot of water at County Park. And now you saw how fast they're running through those ditches, and so the pond slows it down and then throttles it, so it's only going so fast into the park. So just wanted to show the committee the results of the project and that it, it's well worth it.
Yeah,
Because now we don't have to cancel a $10,000 or $20,000 show. For like the county doesn't have to call or cancel anything. So.
One of the few projects in my 30 years that I've experienced where the engineer says something, they build it and it works as advertised.
was that a personal picture? I liked it. All your little mouse ears.
All right, that's unless anyone has any.
Item number 9, discussion and possible decision, notice of intent to acquire a Wisconsin Department of Transportation parcel located adjacent to the Waiwash Trail.
All right, I can run through this one real quick. We received response from DOT a lot quicker than I would have thought. We've been working with someone that's been very responsive over the DOT. Just so you guys are aware, what ends up happening is this letter gets sent from the DOT to, so we made the request. And then what ends up happening is the DOT sends a letter to anyone in that jurisdiction. So it's the school district, it's the county, the town of Oshkosh, and then the Wisconsin DNR. And the next step in the process that has to be done by November 16th is each one of these 4 entities can give a notice of intent that they wish to purchase the subject property. Please do note that by saying that we wish to purchase it or do not wish to purchase it does not lock us into anything. And the word purchase, all that still needs to be negotiated, whether or not it's like the Fox Crossing Dog Park, where it's given to the county for free for the use of the dog park, or whether or not, you know, the DOT.
That's the Jerry Finch Dog Park.
Correct. Yes.
Let's call it the Jerry Finch.
The Jerry Finch Winnebago County Dog Park. So it goes through that process, and it also goes through a public process where they, and that's why it takes so long. I mentioned, 9 months to a year, and those of you that went through the Jerry Finch Winnebago County Dog Park project, no, it does take time, because then they also do have to at least offer to the general public, if any private entities are interested in purchasing it. So, I know I talked with the town, the supervisor that was here, 2 months ago when we originally talked about this, Supervisor Demler. Town Supervisor Demler. I explained to him that this was on our agenda for tonight. He said it was on their agenda as well for tonight. And just wanted to let you know how the process works. So if the Parks Committee would want to continue to explore this option to potentially build a parking lot for the Waiwash Trail on this parcel adjacent to it, this would be the next step. If we want to continue forward, this would have to go to Personnel and Finance and then into the county board to basically say, yes, we are interested in this property.
I'll first take up a motion to approve, take up this resolution. So, by Steve, seconded by
Okay, I'll second it.
Karen Bowers, okay,
I have reservations.
okay, well, and let me say this, and what you said, Adam, this is just moves the process along. This gives you time to negotiate what I said in the past of whatever agreement, understanding, whatever mutual agreement that they have between us and town, right? I mean, this is not committing this county to anything or the Parks Department anything, but it just move along, so. So even though this gets approved in October at the county board level, it's just one part of the process. They know, the town knows that the earliest that anything can be done is 9 to 10 months, because you said it takes up to 9 months toward the next process.
Correct. So this November 16th date is simply the deadline, the DOT is giving all 4 of these entities to say, yeah, interested or not interested. And then the DOT takes that information and just continues on with their process.
So, you have your concerns, Karen, I respect that, but I think we're just kind of moving along. This gives Adam, the ability to negotiate and talk to the town if and what can be done. So, that's why I'd be in favor of it, yeah.
Okay, so the parking lot is to park cars, or is it to park ATV?
So that's something that is, I guess,
It's what?
They can park snowmobiles there right now. I mean, if you want to take your snowmobile there in the winter, you can park your trailer, your snowmobile trailer in that parking lot. It's not very big. It's adjacent to a small parking lot that we already own. So it's like, if you go down the road further, we own a parking lot on Y and S. But if you got a snowmobile there that's got studs on the track and you want to load that snowmobile in that blacktop parking lot and they spin the track, you're gonna get all cuts all over that asphalt. This parking lot, you're not saying we have to do anything with it, but if the state would be willing to give us that piece of land for free, and we did nothing for it for 10 years, our predecessors may have some use for it 10 years from now. I wouldn't be willing to buy this piece of land, but if it's like the Jerry Finch Dog Park, they're willing to donate it to Winnebago County. We don't do nothing with it. If we don't want to do nothing, we just let the 5 acres sit there. And if there ever comes a time when we need to develop it into a parking lot, we can. But I would rather see somebody take their snowmobile off the trail and on a gravel parking lot than a blacktop, because everybody puts studs in there. I mean, I snowmobile, I had studs in my track. You spin your track and you get all these cut marks in concrete and blacktop. So it's like, it would be a better place for unloading snowmobiles. And as far as the 4-wheelers, we can not have them. They can walk down there with a sled, just like Bill Delmore said. We don't have to allow anything other than basically a place to park a vehicle.
And the construction of this proposed the purpose of constructing a parking lot would be what, gravel would be?
Gravel. Because you wouldn't want the snowmobiles to spin like, we have a real nice blacktop driveway.
Yeah.
Or parking lot, but if you take a snowmobile with studs and they spin the track, you'll see all these, they're carbide studs. You'll see big cuts in the blacktop. So it's like if we blacktop that and they unload their sleds there, you just basically get a bunch of marks in it.
Okay, I understand that, but if you have a gravel lot during the warmer weather, when you've got people wanting to bring their ATVs out, don't you risk having, what? Risk having, you know, gravel and stuff going everywhere and having to be in there on a pretty regular basis, even, you know, evening that out and raking and pushing gravel back to where it's supposed to be. I think it's gonna be a mess.
Well, we didn't even say that they could have ATVs going on the trail. All we're doing is providing a parking lot for them to walk down there with a sled. Is what Bill Dunmore suggested. That right now, they basically have to drive down to the lake, unload their four-wheeler and go park all the way to community church and walk back to the lake. We're providing them an access where they can park their car and take their sled to walk down the trail and go on the lake. It's about a quarter of a mile versus maybe a mile and a half. It's in the future, if we wanted to let ATVs down there, that's a possibility, but we don't have to do that to start. We don't have to do it at all. All we're giving them is an opportunity to pull a sled down a trail to get on the lake to fish. And the parking lot we have now is way too small. If they were to park there and go there, there's just not enough room. You get about 5 cars in there.
And residents who live in the area, we discussed it with them, that they're gonna be okay with this large.
There's not really no residents that live in that area. If you go tour it, there's
I
our
thought we did
trail.
tour it. There were houses on both sides.
Well, there's
And
Udemore Drive's on one side, so there's no houses all the way to the on-ramp of 45.
okay,
There's houses on the other side, but they're probably a good 200 yards away from the trail. So, you know, the next road is Bel Air Road, and that's quite a ways down from where this lot is gonna be constructed. And even if it gets constructed, my goal is to get the piece of property if it's free. It adjoins the parking lot that we already own.
okay.
If they don't want to give it to us for nothing, then I guess we really don't have to have it. But if they're willing to give it to us, they could sell it to somebody maybe down the line and they could put a business or something in there. And then our little parking lot is pretty much not very, you see maybe 3-4 cars parked there periodically during the summer. People want to walk or bike, but most people use the lot on Y if they're gonna bike, because it's a blacktop lot. And it's nicer for unloading your bike but you're riding on a gravel trail, because that's what the Wee Wash Trail is. It's a gravel trail.
Jim?
I was under the impression, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe one of the people was Jim or someone else here, and they made the statement. Correct me if I'm wrong. They would put the parking lot in.
They did. They said they would.
So
do
I
that.
don't see, to me, I look at this as no harm, no foul. If they're dumb enough to put the parking lot in for us, well, I think there's, ulterior motive there, but at any rate, if
Yeah, I mean,
they're gonna sit there and bring in all the rock and then bring in the gravel and smoothing it out.
And they're gonna maintain it?
No, they didn't say
I mean, I
maintain
think
it.
that's what we all have to negotiate, and that's the next step, possibly. That's the first step. That's what I'm understanding, right? Am I correct? I mean, we have no agreement or understanding of what they would do, what we would do. This is just agreement to authorize to acquire this land. That's all thing we're doing, right? That's my feeling. Rachel, any comments?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, we're all ready to vote on this?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that passes. The vote's great, okay. Item 10, presentation, Parks Department Executive Operational Budget Overview.
Apparently mine. Oh, I'm reading it. Might have to just quickly load PDF. Not a welcome paper. Oh, I think I'm on William Mac versus Williamson. Yep. That's why. Just a big file, so it froze up the first time. I have paper just in case.
You ready?
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So. What I have in your packet, and we can, up to Chairman Norton, but we could have this on the next month's packet as well for you to digest after, just run through it here. And then we could always ask more questions next month as well. So the budget meetings are typically, for those that maybe are new to the board, are typically in the first week of November. So this gives us two opportunities to talk about it as a committee if you have any questions. What this is this is the executive proposed budget for the Parks Department. So park staff, we submit our budget requests, and then the county executive meets with us, and Chairman Norton was there as well, runs through it with us, and then he approves his executive budget. So this is basically the executive budget that's going to be proposed at the November meetings. So what you're looking at here is what our proposal will be to the county board. The first page.
Has this gone to the county executive yet?
Yes, oh yeah, this is all, yep, this has all been through.
Okay.
These were just actually approved by his office last week.
Okay.
So basically, we always start with our mission statement, and our program descriptions. Our focuses are on park, I won't read verbatim.
Yeah.
But parks, boat landings, navigation aids, rec trails, expo center, and preservation and conservation areas. That's kind of how we do our budgeting. We have 5 accounts, and that's how we run through those accounts typically, is through these different focuses. We have our 2022 accomplishments. I'll just summarize, the East Center, or the East campus improvements that we just talked about. The LED lights that were approved, LED lights, the improved pavement, the gutters on the expo side. We entered into a new contract with Cumulus Radio for sponsorship. The Jerry Finch Winnebago County Dog Park opened in Fox Crossing. We had the ribbon cutting up there. We worked with OYSC, which is Oshkosh Youth Soccer, to install drain tile on soccer fields 1 and 2 within the community park, and that actually is continuing even this year. Most recently, the Grumman boat landing. This actually could be updated because the county was awarded $400,000 last year, now we've earned another $800,000 from the Wisconsin DNR, and have board approval for that project for next year.
I don't have a boat, but I'm looking forward to that boat, the improvements to that boat landing. That'll be exciting.
It's definitely, Winnebago County is, water. And so that's a resource that I think is really important, and we have a big part in that, Parks Department does. We approved the master plan for the Walkout Dam. We went through that. And, we have some other things in here. Maybe those of you don't know, Life Fest donated fiber optic cabling that was taken out to the Sunnyview Expo Center stage. That was about a $30,000 roughly donation, because they showed us the receipts for that. And we started installing trail and car counters out on the trails, so we can start tracking things. I know I've introduced that to this committee. For 2023, our goal will be to request funding. We're still working through the CIP process. I'm meeting with the county executive tomorrow, so I hope to have something to bring to you in October at the Parks Committee, a draft CIP to discuss. But potentially either the West Campus improvements over the Sunnyview Expo or the Walcott Dam project. We'll be starting our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, which will definitely involve this committee, creating our next 5-year plan so we can continue to plan for the future. and be able to be eligible for a lot of DNR and other grants. And expanding programming, Justin and I just met with actually a group this morning. We're gonna be doing some pretty big events, at least once a month at the park. So a lot of exciting stuff going on, so you can read through all of those. Like I said, I just throw out some highlights. As you all, I'm sure remember and know from the county executive's directive, we were to stay within 0% of the budget with 4% increase in weight or in essentially personnel. So you have that 4% increase plus, you know, the general, and I'll go through it, inflation type increases. But then we need to stay at 0. So we had to make some decisions on a few items, and I will highlight those. You know, we won't go through line by line by line, but if you do have questions along the way, let me know and I'll highlight some of the major areas.
And Adam, the
Yeah.
decrease of $12 is not a typo.
That is not a typo.
Okay.
Through the process, the county executive wanted to add more to, we were about like 300 under, and he
Okay,
wanted to add more to our training budget.
okay,
So
thank you.
he did add some more into there. So just some highlights. They always, Carol, who works in finance, our assistant finance director, she does a great job putting these types of things together. So I'll just run through the significant changes, because this will actually highlight a lot of the changes that I was just talking about. So rental revenues. So we have an increase, that special event fee that we added to the community parks. It says 3,500. We were, by the time we start our budgeting process, it's only June or July. We brought in about 6,500 from the special event permits, so that's definitely helped to cover some of our staff costs this year for those extra events. And then an increase in rentals is anticipated, and part of that is because we're putting the waste removal under this rental revenue account rather than having a separate account for it. Donations, we increased based off of the fact that we did receive a $5,000 donation. I mentioned that at a previous meeting. For our 1,000 hours program. Now we're going to be changing that name to Winnebago, and we'll highlight that in an update here and maybe next month in October. We'll have Justin kind of run through that to give you an idea of what we're looking to do with the Oshkosh Rec Department and then PDS Fusion. We added some, so instead of coming to the board and to the personnel and finance and the parks committee for bench donations and tree donations and those types of things to get a budget adjustment, we're just gonna budget for that. And then we budgeted for the expense accordingly too. So that way, if we do receive a donation, we already can accept that donation for a bench. Those are things that happen every year anyway.
So can you approve them without going through this committee?
Yes, because it's getting approved through the budget process. So in terms of just accepting a memorial bench, that's an operational thing, but the actual receiving of the money and then spending of the money, that's where we'd have to get board approval to bring them. And for $1,800 benches and the amount of time and effort it takes, you know, we tell our donor, yeah, it's gonna take about 3 months just to get the okay, and then it's gonna take 3 months to order it. By time, it's almost like we're looking at next year already. So then landfill fees, I mentioned that's the garbage removal. So we took that and we're putting that into rental revenue. So there's an $8,500 decrease there. In terms of expenses, so those are revenues. Expenses, we had a $13,000 decrease in health insurance. That's just one of those things going from a family to an individual plan. Motor fuel, diesel cost has gone up this year, and we can't, but not, and we have to anticipate it staying high for next year. We're already over budget for this year, so we did increase that line item. Building rental, we had a expense in there for the stage, but because that doesn't happen necessarily every year, there's a pass through at Life Vest through their contract, the stage rental. We did take that out of there. We figure if we do have to request that budget adjustment through a rental, we'll go ahead and do that through that. So we did take that out of there. Maintenance, just maintenance to grounds, the interfund. We decreased it to meet levy target. What this is we increased it last year. The Wyowash Trail and the Mascoutin Trail are 2 gravel trails. We have a lot of miles. I mean, it's 5 miles on the Mascoutin and then 16 is it on Wyowash?
Was one section 16.
Yeah, okay, got it. So, you know, it's a gravel trail, it needs maintenance. And so what we do is we hire highway to go through, in the past, it was only 1 mile a year, which doesn't get you very far. So we upped it to 3 miles to try to finish it to Oshkosh this year. And we were to try to keep it at that 3 miles because we need to get out to Mascoutin next. Well, we needed to look for places to cut, so we did cut 15,000 out of that. So now we'll be doing 2 miles, or roughly 1.5 miles to 2 miles a year through this budget. So it's still a little bit more, but it's not as much as we wanted to do, but so we did decrease that. We increased heat across all our funds. We received notice from WPS and We Energies that prices will be going up, and they went up at the beginning of this year too. So they'll be going up at the beginning of next year, and they already went up this year. So we had to increase a lot of our utility funds had to go up between electrical and heat. And then increase for contractual services and ground maintenance here. We increased some contractual services for the community park, so maybe we can get some help out there from a contractor, like we have a landscaper that mows some of our properties already, seeing about maybe some help with more regular maintenance on the roundabouts. And then we also, what I noticed when looking back last year, I started, and a month later, we were in the budgeting process. So what I noticed through this year is that we've never budgeted for mowing at any of our recreational trails, or basically our sites outside of the community park and the expo, and outside of the boat landings, because those were in the boat landing funds. So we did now put that into the budget to make sure we're accounting for that. And then an overall increase.
Do you have to, when you contract out for doing these services, do you have to bid them out, or you can use the water drain one?
So that is already been bid out for a 5-year contract. Yep, so we're in the middle of one. We just didn't have enough funds in our, so we were essentially taking from other accounts for normal, regular maintenance that we should be budgeting for. And then we increased the navigational aids expenses a little bit, but from last year to this year, we moved the buoys into the navigational aids. There was a little bit of estimating in that, so we're getting our more true actual costs. And then professional services, this was just to make room in the budget. We decreased a lot of our professional services engineering costs. And then other small changes amounted for the rest of the changes in here. 2 important things to note, and then, I'll see too if there's any questions, and there's more pages we could run through, but we did, so how it worked is we had our 0% request, which is basically this top area. And then the county executive asked us for ad requests, each department. So we had 2 ad requests for next year. The first one was the comprehensive outdoor rec plan, because that has to be done every 5 years. It's technically not due next year, but it takes about a year to actually update it. So we wanted it updated for 2024. So that is the 35,000 in there to hire an engineer and work through that process. And then our 10-foot mower from 1997, Tom could give you more information if you would like, but we've been using a mower since 97, good maintenance practices. But it's been leaking. We found a part, but then even the company that was fixing it broke it while it's hard to find parts for a 97 mower anymore. It's 97 commercial mower. So we have a replacement program. Tom puts together as our fleet manager. He puts together a replacement program for all of our equipment and an inventory for all of our equipment. So that way we're not stuck in 1 year with 5 or 6 pieces of equipment. We look to try to replace 1 to 2 pieces of equipment every single year. And you'll run into some situations where you have a larger piece of equipment, like a front end loader we had the other year, or a dump. But for the most part, it's gonna be the mowers, pickup trucks, our tool cats, those types of things. However, with cost of everything, those are going up. The 10-foot mower 5 years ago was about $60,000. It's up to $88,000. What we got a quote on for next year. So we budgeted 95, knowing that prices could even change between now and then. So those were both approved. The proposal for those is that they come out of the general fund. Is a one-time, so it's not adding to the levy, it's a one-time expenditure. I think the county executive, I was at the last county board meeting, he was explaining in his update that he's to try to spend down some of the fund balance. So these are the 2 that he approved of ours.
Any questions, Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 10-foot mower that lasted 25 years. Do you expect the next one to last that long? Are they being made as well as?
And Tom can
Well-
speak to that better.
No, we have a 15-year plan on that.
Yeah.
You should get 15 years out of it. The only reason we did this is we needed.
I'm sure you did. I'm just wondering, this last one lasted 25 years. What are the chances one's being built today with sort of planned obsolescence as a business model?
I couldn't tell you that because these tier 4 diesel engines that they put out now, I don't think they could go 12,000 hours,
Yeah,
like so on. But we should expect at least 15.
I'm very proud of you for getting 25 out of the last one. Thank you very much. It was all you.
And the mowers are one of our pieces of equipment take the most beating, because you have seasonal staff on them, which are either high schoolers or college age, or you have, you know,
Yeah.
other.
But
But no, I mean,
he passed
but
Homeland Security.
they're hitting rocks, they're hitting, you know,
Yeah.
you're running over a manhole
Yeah,
that
for
should be
sure.
flush with the ground. They take a beat, and they're run, these 10-foot mowers are run every day all summer, pretty much, so.
How much was this mower again?
The list price, municipal price was 88
That was for 10.
for that full 10-foot more with the canopy, the list price for you and me would be 122. So they discounted considerably.
But instead of going, we're going to like, you said 90 something, because it's gonna take enough time to get it approved, to get it built. And get it
We always want to have a little bit of because we got the price a month ago, we're not gonna order this
Those
until,
are 22 prices, so we
Yeah.
expect a 7% increase with inflation. So,
Okay.
yeah,
I usually have 10% because you don't know,
Okay.
especially in today's market.
See, I wish there's a way we could order it now and just pay for it for next year's budget or somehow borrow. off
So
next year's budget.
typically, once the budget's approved in November, we do start looking at
You do that?
equipment, because equipment lead time is so far out.
I can't get a purchase order issued without their permission.
That way.
The funds have to be.
Without,
Designate.
without official budget approved. So in December, we can start poking at it,
Okay,
but,
Mike will cover it. He'll underwrite it for you.
so overall, you can, really, like I said in the beginning, the levy difference, it's that $13 or, however that small, $12. I think it was. It does go into detail a little bit more line by line. This is where I said I won't necessarily unless you have any questions on it, but that is in the packet. Feel free to obviously look through that. But it does go through line by line, what we spend in each category. This is the capital outlay that I just went over. And then we do have the boat landing. So the boat landing is separate. And the reason the boat landing is separate is because it's an enterprise account. So the boat landing is supposed to pay for itself. So some of the significant changes, and there wasn't much in the boat landing. As decrease, so we decreased the boat launch fees, and that's just based off of what we're seeing from actuals this year, from last year, from years past. Equipment rental increased based on actuals from the past 3 years for portable toilets. That was another thing. It wasn't being budgeted in the boat landings. I'm not sure where, I couldn't find it. So we actually budgeted the 5,000, so that way the portable toilets are being budgeted for. And then just $2,000 small increases and decreases here and there. What you can see is, so this year's budget, and so I'll go over this just a little bit more because of the enterprise function of this. And I apologize, I should have got it before this meeting, but I believe we're roughly at 90,000 in fund balance in the boat landing fund, meaning we came into 2022 positive 90,000. We expected to end 2022, we expect to end 2022 at 14,000. Now that's if we spend everything that we said we would spend, and if we receive all the revenue we said we would receive. So it's run a lot more like a for-profit business, and then we need to make sure that if we're not bringing in enough revenue, we mid-year need to figure out if we can cut back on some expenses, because we can't go, we're not supposed to go negative, obviously, or we're going into our fund balance in this account. Now, in comparison, in 2021, we were projecting to lose lose 60,000. So we have definitely turned it around. $1,400 is not enough, obviously, to sustain us for the long run, and trying to make improvements and continuing to build it so that way a lot of the improvements can come through this fund. But it is a step in the right direction. We did at least turn it around about 70,000. So I think eventually we will need to look at potential rate increase. We can only increase our rates by so much due to DNR grants that are already on our existing boat landings. But we do have the ability to increase our fees if need be, to help bring this up, and we can look over that over the next year. But what you'll see in the boat landing fund is you'll see wages for park ranger, or for our park rangers. If you're wondering what those wages are, but all of these fees in here, removal and installation of the docks, any sewer, water, lights specifically associated with the boat landing. So this is all boat landing, very specific. So.
So
that is-
labor is $12,000 for that's the ranger. correct?
Yep, those are part-time rangers. They work, usually have one on for sure, April through, May. A second one comes on typically in June or even in late May. And then they work until about the first week in November.
How much of the expenses are the buoys?
The buoys are roughly 68,000, 68, we added a little bit, so it's probably more like 75,000 this year. Or going into next year. And that's for installing them. It's 25,000 to install them, 25,000 to take them out, and then any maintenance in between there. For instance, I just got a bill for $800 for a buoy that chain broke and it floated down, and Oshkosh Docks had to go out and fetch it and reinstall it, obviously, and new chain, new tire, all that stuff.
And there's no way of moving them out of the boat launch fees. I mean, they're really not.
They're out of the boat launch fees. As of this year was the first year that they're out of the boat launch fees and they're in the tax levy. We moved that out last year through the budget process.
Yeah, I know last year. we did.
Yep.
So our expenses are still $93,000. So what are we spending that money for in the $96,490? What is that money
Yeah,
going for in?
we can go a little bit more detail in here.
So,
So
yeah,
I have it up here too. We'll just go through it a little bit. So, total labor, 12,000. So labor is 12,000 of that. Office supplies. Now this is like, our, mostly it's gonna be the daily envelopes that we print out, put out there. So if you came to the boat landing and, you were paying $7, just use it for the day. It's the envelope with $7 and then the tag, and you put it all in there and you put the tag on your car. So that's like those types of things. The boat launch passes, when you come into the office, the white and yellow, sheets. So that way we can give them a receipt. So that's the office supplies pretty much. Honestly, in a nutshell, that's pretty much all that is. Little bit for advertising, small equipment, that would be anything that we need to fix at the boat landings, beacon lights, really any small equipment type items out at the landings that we'd have to fix.
Does that include, these? Machine, well, we're,
Automatic pay stations?
yeah,
No, not at this time, it does not.
and how much?
Um,
Prices will they cost?
The automatic pay station, we are looking at that. I've submitted, that's some of the discussions to happen tomorrow to get every landing with an automatic pay station is to be roughly 100 to 120,000. Still working
What
on
if
it.
we want to do a major one, Grunman?
Well, Grumman's gonna get done in
Okay,
the, yeah.
the major one, maybe not,
We want to get them all in the
But-
same system ideally, because otherwise it's gonna be two
Right.
different systems and make it more difficult for Justin and the park rangers. But, so one of our proposals is potentially switching them all out next year, but we're looking at that. There are grants out there for it too. Excuse me. Equipment rental would be our portable toilets. So that's at 5,000, so 11,500 in small equipment replacement portable toilets. And then we have, maintenance to equipment. Once again, that's gonna be more maintenance to those types of items, that I just, spoke about before. We do have some maintenance to equipment in regards to the few buoys that are, we have 11 buoys, and it was roughly $700 a buoy. That are specifically, if the landings weren't there, the buoys. So that's in that $10,000. We have power, light, water, sewer, stuff, utilities. And then the big one here, 61,000. So that is for removal and installation of the docks, mowing of the boat landings. And then we do have a pretty sizable amount in there, about 20,000 for, because if something happens to the ramps, if something happens, those are larger expenses. So we budget them and anticipate that that might be something we need to do. But I will say, so when we look at that 1,468, there is a potential, at least for that 20,000 potentially be available. Now this year, some of the things we need to do with that 20,000 is if you go out to Asylum Bay, that the dock needs new boards all across it. It's in pretty rough shape. If you look at those big concrete blocks, if we needed a new concrete block, or if we need to do some asphalt work, minor stuff that highway might not do. That is where, so it is a little bit, especially in that 61,000, there might be a little bit in there that are more anticipated just in case. So that's where the 94,000 comes from.
Oh, good.
Or 96, sorry.
We're lucky we're not paying for the buoys, or there'd be no money at all for maintenance.
Well, and that's 100% what it was last year, negative 60 or 70,000, and that's pretty much the buoy cost. Yes, yep. And then eventually our fund balance would have got to zero and I don't know what we would have to put levy into it anyway, so. And then it has the summary at the end, if you wanted to see by account. So 65 is our administration, where a lot of our salary, labor, obviously pretty much all of it, other than the park rangers. Community park specific account, rec trails would be Jerry Finch, Winnebago County Dog Park, Ken Roble, Wyowash, Mascoutin, Wacaw Dam, Wacaw Creek, those types of things. Navigational aids, we talked about that. Actually, you can see the total expense, 83,000. And then exhibition, so the expo and then the boat. So if there's, that's the summary, and obviously if there's any more discussion we want to have next month too, we could always.
Any discussion now? Further to,
Do we have enough money for seal coating the park next year and redoing the two roundabouts, or do we? need
So
more
I
money
was,
to do that?
John Groth from the highway department got a hold of me in regards to chip sealing the south side of the park. He says it needs to be chip sealed, which we all can agree with. So they have that in their plan, to chip seal from the south roundabout to Schnell next
No,
year.
that's the worst part, yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely the
When
worst
they
part.
crack building, you can hardly see any asphalt.
There's a lot of cracks for 6-year, 7-year-old pavement, correct?
And the two roundabouts, we got money to.
So we put in $4,000 just, and I want to talk to Fox River Landscaping, who does all of our other stuff. Or see if there's another local company to see. Fox River Landscaping picked up they mowed Jerry Finch Winnebago County Dog Park. This year, it was about 3,000 for them to mow it all year. It was a no-brainer for us to use them. So we want to look at that to see if there's other areas that we might be able to help with our staff, because it's been hard to keep up with everything with 5 staff. To be able to keep up with some of those, especially the roundabouts. You see City of Oshkosh, Neenah and Ash out on those bi-weekly with crews of 3 or 4 people. So they're tough to keep up on. So even if we can get someone out there every month or every other week to work on them, I think that would go a long way.
I mean, I've got so many calls on them all the time, those, they're nothing but thistles, and it's like. The people know we spent all that money, $2.5 million redoing that, and they just, don't understand that you sprayed them, they don't die. I tell them that, what they say, well, why don't they pull them after the rain? I said, well, I don't know, we don't have the manpower, but it's such an eyesore, when they put them in, they were gorgeous. I mean, they look nice, the bushes were trimmed. And now they just are way out of hand, and we need to basically get somebody on board to,
And to that, Kyle, our foreman, he ripped both of them up in this spring and pretty much brand new. He ripped them up. They looked great. Like you said, it's the being able to keep up with it with everything else.
it lasted about.
When it's 3 days just to mow the park and the expo, and that leaves you with 2 days, it's been difficult,
But we need some low maintenance, even if you cut them with a mower, instead of putting
And we've talked about that too. Tom's talked about
cut the green
turning some
space
into
with a
turf.
mower, it don't
Yep.
take long to take
If
off.
we don't, if we can't get to that, I know the south roundabout, we have to pull it out, so, or still not. We have to completely kill it.
Right, yep. And then
But
put a
that's
weed
a-
mat down and start over, because
So
There
that's what
are
our
s-
plan is.
And there are some design standards that City of Oshkosh requires in terms of number of plantings in a roundabout, so we can put some of it in the grass and then we still have to keep some plantings there. So that's.
and the plantings, all you gotta do is trim them, it's
Yeah.
something, you have to have something you can cut on a regular basis, like the thistles with the wood chips, you can't go up there with a mower and cut over
Right.
wood chips.
Absolutely.
But they're nothing but thistles, the thistles, you can't even see the wood chips.
So yes, we do, to answer your initial question, we did put 4,000 in, to try to add to their contract to see if we can get something, see if we can.
anybody else? Done? Before I go to staff updates, ma'am, did you want to address the committee? Okay, all right. Going to staff updates, I'll go to, Rick first.
Well, the Expo Center, trying to stay on top of the maintenance stuff. Phase 1 project. As you saw in the photos and the video, did exactly what it was intended to do. So that worked out very well in our favor. We are looking at multiple new events. A couple yet this fall and several for next year. We have potentially 3 new horse shows next year. Got a couple there that are looking to book second shows, possible new one. All right, there's actually 2 new ones that are talking to me that may change locations, and use us. Plus some new stuff coming into the expo center, trying to look at some of those different alternatives. We have a company that wants to wrap Amazon trucks overnight. Just sent them a contract today, so they're just gonna pull into the building. You know, strip off the old logos, put on new ones. Using the building when no one else is there, and they're gone by morning because the trucks have to be back on the road.
They take all their junk with them.
Yep. Easy $3,000, done. So, looking at just random things like that that are popping up here and there. And trying to increase revenue where we can with simple things that don't take a lot of labor because we just don't have a lot to give. So, that's where we're at.
Rick, have you been able to, the issue that Tom Egan brought up about the milk house, and if you haven't, when you do, could you give an update? I know that you kind of talked about it in the
I
past.
talked to the county fair director and he said they're looking into it, but they didn't really give me any specifics on what they need to fix or where they're looking to,
Okay.
how they're
Okay,
looking to
I know
fix
that-
it. He just said they're looking into the equipment, so
Okay.
I kind of left it in his hands for now because they're the experts.
Any update on the LED lights? You gonna start to install them or?
We actually got an email from Paul with facilities that they're hoping to get a start on them this fall, but he doesn't see a completion till next year. So all the equipment is there. It's all sitting in the garage, waiting to go. It's just when they can get around to installing it. He said there's other projects that are bumping us back. So he's hoping to get a start this fall, but definitely he does not plan to have it completed before winter.
What else, Rick? Okay. Tom?
This week or last week, we planted 25 new trees in the park. We have 33 more to go later in October, so we'll have a grand total of 58 new trees.
What did you plant? A variety of
All
things?
right, yeah, we're going on the 20 species rule, where you plant no more than 5% of any plant tree. So
Okay.
we have a minimum of 20 species. Then we'll have 33 more coming in later October. So that's one good. We'll probably be taking down between the expo and the park, close to 100 trees this winter. That's emerald ash borer mainly. We probably have another 100 after that in the future. So we're losing trees. That's why we probably planted over 250 trees in the last 7 years.
When you take down a tree, is the wood worth anything to us?
No, I mean, there might be some specific trees, but these would be considered urban trees. Nobody wants them.
Okay.
And they tried to sell big chunks of it for pulpwood. They just laugh at us, you know. So They
Well,
want,
it's not nice.
they want footage. They want like tens of thousands of
Yeah.
trees.
Okay.
And then, my last seasonal leaves on Wednesday. He's been with us over on and off for 7 of the last 8 years, so
Oh.
this is his last season, but I come back. I think he's turning 65 and calling it a day. But he was good. He was worth 2 or 3 college kids all day. So, and very conscious, very smart guy.
Any chance to get the stump grinder out there and grinding some of them stumps, the highway department,
Yep,
somebody
we're
can do it?
scheduled the first part of October with their grinder.
Like we got little trees
As
growing
long
by
as
all
they
the
follow
stumps.
through with their side, we will, try to do it.
Else, Tom? Justin?
Well, Adam mentioned this a little bit before, but we were working on some programming with contract departments and PDF Fusion. Within today, finalize a new name for our program. We can't use 1,000 hours tagline or anything like that, so we're working on that, figuring out when our first few events are gonna be happening. And maybe do a night snowshoe hike, cross country thing before the end of January this year. We're trying to work out days that work with other things happening as well. The city activity as well. I left it. Gosh, Parks Department is probably doing something possibly in the winter time at the park, so we're just making sure we're not doubling up on events happening at the same time, so. If people come to our event, there's not have two of them. But we're gonna be trying to do at least one different events every month. Some of the months will have kind of an ongoing theme where people can come out and just do whatever the activity is any time during that month, and some just have specific events happening in days during the months. So that's looking forward. Should be pretty cool. We're excited. We've got some funds from the company, but they donated $5,000 towards it. We'll put in some money to it here and there. With the trying to do some new signs for this golf course. The guy who runs the Fox Valley Open about it. I'm working with the guy who does math and stuff like that. Let's get some signage out there, see if we can find a way around. Of course, a little bit of money. And I have been working with some people in the county on the new county Facebook page. Very well to follow that, share that, so you can build the audience we have as well.
Well, I thank you, Justin, for what you're doing. You have a big challenge. I said this before and I'll say it again. I'll keep on saying it. You know, the city of Oshkosh Parks Board have 1 or 2 people who do what you do. And there's someone full time who can look for events and how to get things in their system. And it's hard to be unique too, to differentiate from them, because people say, well, why, if you have a similar event, why would not go to Menominee and blah, blah, and Oshkosh or whatever? I don't know, I have nothing against Manassas or Nina, but you know, they have similar events too. That I think one of the big challenges you have, and I'm glad we are doing something. So thank you, Justin, for that. Okay. Any questions for Justin, anyone?
Just one, you said you can't use a tag 1,000 hours, why is that?
I don't know, we reached out to them and they just weren't too keen on us. Using their name for, I guess, for our program.
So for a copyright name or something? We could be 1,001 hours.
We could, yeah,
Good.
yeah, we're just quite too sure why they wouldn't have us do it. We're just trying to encourage people to be active.
Yeah.
Both sides and stuff like that. That's what they're trying to do, so. It's fine, we're gonna do kind of our own thing.
Well, Justin was creative and he came up with 920 hours for the 920 area code.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. My dad was a 1,001. This one letter. Yeah.
Community members updates. Jim, you're first.
Yes.
Okay, Karen.
Well, I had only planned on saying what you just said, is that we have beautiful parks, both dry parks and parks on water, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the work that y'all do to keep our parks usable and friendly and really good looking. So thanks, Adam, and your whole staff.
Steve?
Just for Adam, I know other departments are starting to submit their ARPA projects to the county exec. Just make sure that we get, if you could, make sure that we get the expo and the Walkaw Dam submitted.
Yep.
You know,
Both those were submitted by me
okay,
last week and I'm meeting with them tomorrow.
Can we, maybe maybe next month or whenever they let what departments to make suggestions, you at least bring forward this, and maybe we have suggestions, because that's one thing I've been talking about in my committee, other committees. Okay, thank you Steve, for that. Rachel, do you have anything?
Not today.
Okay, I have just a few things. One thing, I know we got the results of the survey. I would like to have you look at that and take back to yourself, and we'll discuss that a little bit next month. Number 2, if you want to talk more about the budget, you can, but I don't know. I guess I could put it on the agenda item, but if people discussion, they can thoroughly. I want to thank everyone. I think it's great that we got, no one voted against that Redmond boat launch proposal, right? I think that was a very good job. A couple people want to thank. I want to thank Steve Bender, because he said 2 years ago, we went for it, we'd be more than 6% of the funding. We did. I want to thank Adam, because I think he went for it. And boy, I'm so glad we have Adam, because he found ways to fund projects. You know, Rachel, the only time I got worried when Rachel was talking about the restroom, because I thought one of the other members would do, because he wasn't for that, if you remember, and I was worried about that, but I think that was a very good effort. It was the project was brought forward by the residents and not by us or department. So I want to thank some people around this table. Adam, wonderful job. I really think kudos to you and Steve. So that's what my report is. Next meeting date, I had Adam at the very last sheet, the future meeting date, because certain member always asks me, hey, are we meeting this month or not, or when, or this week? These are the meeting dates. The only question I think that we should look at is maybe the December date, because obviously it's like, it's a current holiday. And when we meet in December, I was curious about the Monday because with the following month, because if we do have a Christmas party, a county board Christmas party, will be on the Monday before the county board meeting, which I think would be the 19th, if I'm reading this right. I don't think you do, if you want to have a meeting and then go right to the holiday party, wherever, or wherever that would be. So that's the only date. I think we can address that from November or now, but that's the only date that would be different unless people have problems with the dates there now.
Can I speak to the December date?
Sure, you go ahead.
I just want to speak to it. Obviously, we don't have to decide on that date at this time. Obviously, it's currently a holiday for staff. However, with the Grumman boat landing, Tom and I met with the engineers this last week. We're gonna obviously keep moving forward with it now that we have funding approval. The goal would be to go to bid right after Thanksgiving and open right before Christmas, so we're right in the middle of the holidays and we're the first out on the block. If obviously if the budget's dollar over, we need to get board approval, so we might need to squeeze something in. So that way we can get approval of the county board in January to not slow down a contractor if we look at March 1st as our construction date. So just throwing that out there, that potentially a first week of January meeting, even though we already have a meeting in January, might not be a bad idea from a staff perspective. So just throwing it out there.
And having a December board meeting would not be too rush for that for you?
I mean, we'd have to get it moving forward, otherwise, yeah, because March 1st is our
I mean, if
projected
we,
construction start date,
let me
if
back,
it all works.
let me back up.
Yep.
If we would have our meeting very early December and approved of that and got it on December 19th or 20th board agenda, would that work too?
We probably will not be
Right,
opening the bid documents on, it's a little early,
Okay.
things could change, but we probably will not be opening them until December 20th or 21st. So we'll need a little bit of time to look at it with the engineers, and make sure. And honestly, and I'm just throwing it out there, because honestly, we could do a special meeting too.
Right,
If we had to
yeah.
approve something like that, we could always set up a special meeting too.
And then with the future meeting dates? Anyone? Okay.
Just a point, Rick, those all say 22.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a January.
They sure do, don't they? We go back in time.
But the month and date,
You're right.
The dates are right, they should be right.
if it's an official record.
Thank you for pointing out, Tom.
On the minutes for next meeting.
Yeah. Looks like some stuff. Okay. I'll entertain a motion. Any other, back up, future agenda items, anyone?
No, just you're gonna check about adult volunteers, adult workers with background checks and sexual abuse workshops. Okay.
Yep, we'll ask BMX what they currently do.
If we're subjecting the BMX group to that, should we also do the same with 4-H?
I think if BMX doesn't do it and we now want to revisit it, I think we got to look at it as a whole policy. I think there's mentioned before too, I think 4-H, soccer,
4-H
art
was it?
club, BMX, rugby, I think we probably really need to.
4-H is under the extension office. So we
They
check
do
with
it, they
them.
actually have you have to take a couple day course in order to be a 4-H instructor.
Right.
I suppose that's another department.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, this is Powers.
Moved by Karen Power, seconded by Steve Bender. All in favor, by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.